The following is a preview of episode 26, Early Sahulian Lifeways. To listen to the full episode, become a supporter of the podcast by visiting patreon.com/ourprehistory or clicking the link in the description of this episode. Whereas hunting and gathering in Sahul was remarkably diverse, stone tool technology lacked variety. In fact, the earliest inhabitants of this continent produced strikingly simple stone tools, which were rarely made through careful core preparation or retouching. This haphazard approach to tool making remained typical for more than 40,000 years in New Guinea, Australia, and Tasmania. Surprisingly, the randomly shaped flakes made by Sahulian stoneworkers were less sophisticated than the tools from the much older Middle Stone Age of Africa. The lack of distinctive types of stone tools has prevented archaeologists from being able to identify any Pleistocene Age cultures in Sahul. Names like Stilbay and Origination aren't used to identify a set of unique customs, because there's little visible change in culture through time or across the continent. The lack of complexity in stone tools led prehistorians of the 20th century to conclude that the first Sahulians were more primitive than humans from other parts of the world. This assumption often played into racist views held about Aboriginal Australians and Papuans. Today, few prehistorians hold this view, and they point toward evidence of intellectual capacity of early settlers of this continent, such as the ocean crossing from Wallacea. So why did the early stone technologies of Sahul remain so simple? Let's start by describing the artifacts left behind by the oldest Sahulians. Most of their tools were flakes, about as wide as they were long, produced by striking a core stone that had not been shaped or prepared. Most of the time, people used the sharp edges of these flakes without any further modification. Only about 2% of flakes were retouched, usually to produce scrapers. But even these rarely followed a standard shape. These quickly produced tools were sometimes attached to handles using a resin-based glue, which has been discovered at two of the oldest Australian sites on the margin of the central deserts, showing that although simple, some of these stone components were elements of compound tools. During the Pleistocene, Sahulians did not produce blades, bladelets, or stone points. Points and blades had been used by Homo sapiens in Africa for hundreds of thousands of years. However, as we learned several episodes ago, during the out of Africa dispersal, when our species moved into Southeast Asia, many old innovations in stone tool technology were lost. Unlike most of the rest of Eurasia and Africa, stone points and microliths did not spread into areas covered by the modern countries of Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, or southern China. This means that the groups that eventually reached Sahul probably had been using simple flakes for many generations. The first colonists to arrive from Wallacea probably lacked the knowledge necessary to produce those more complex tools. And for some reason, it would take another 45,000 years for their descendants to reinvent those technologies and spread them across the continent.